Yeah. So Arjuna had no reason to lament in either way, right? If he considered that we are not this body, we are soul, in that way also Arjuna should not lament. And if Arjuna considered that the soul is created and destroyed along with the body, then also he should not lament. Yes. But at the same time, Krishna sarcastically addressed Arjuna as Mahabahu or mighty armed because he at least did not accept the theory of Vaivhasikas, which leaves aside the Vedic wisdom. So Krishna knows that Arjuna does not accept his philosophy, but Krishna telling if you also accept, then also you should not lament. As a Kshatriya, Arjuna belonged to the Vedic culture and it behooved him to continue to following the principles. So then Krishna tells further about qualities of the soul. जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्योर्ध्रुवं जन्मामृतस्य च तस्मादापरिहार्यार्थे न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि. So you can see repeatedly Krishna is telling na tvam sochitumarhasi. You should not lament. So Krishna is highly discouraging this lamentation of Arjuna. One who has taken his birth is here to die, and after death, one is here to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. So they have taken birth, your relatives. Anyway, they are going to die someday. So you please do not lament for this. अव्यक्तादीनि भूतानि व्यक्तमद्धानि भारत अव्यक्तानि धनान्येव तत्र का परिदेवना. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when annihilated. So, what need is there for lamentation? So, this is true for everyone. Initially, they were unmanifested. In the middle, they are manifested, and again they are unmanifested. In every day of Brahma, the living entities become manifested, and in every night, they become unmanifested. This is temporarily unmanifestation. But at the end of Brahma's life, that is permanent destruction of the whole material creation, complete destruction of the whole material creation. So in that condition also, the jivas are unmanifested and everything goes into the body of Mahavishnu. So they initially are in the unmanifested stage and at the end also they are in unmanifested stage. In the middle they are manifested. So why to lament? Right? आश्चर्यवत् पश्याति कश्चिदेनम् आश्चर्यवद् वदति तथैव चान्यम् आश्चर्यवच्चैनम् अन्यः शृणोति श्रुतव्यप्येनं वेद न चैव कश्चित्. Some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. The soul is amazing. These are some amazing qualities of the soul Krishna told us, right? So in the material creation, hardly anyone knows about the true nature of the soul because if they knew, they would be liberated. They will not stay further in this material world. देहि नित्यम् अबाधोऽयं देह सर्वस्व भारत तस्मत् सर्वाणि भूतानि न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि. O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, you should not grieve for any living being. So again, Krishna is coming back to the original eternal nature of the soul, that he who dwells in the body can never be slain. So please do not lament. सर्वधर्मामपि च वीक्षा न विकम्पितुमर्हसि धर्म्याधियुद्धश्रेयोऽन्यात् क्षत्रियस्य न विद्यते. Considering your specific duty as a Kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles, and so there is no need for hesitation. So for you, the best thing is to fight. If you do not fight, then it is not good for you. So Krishna tells all this philosophy about the soul to inspire Arjuna to fight, to so that Arjuna executes his prescribed duty. So here Krishna is telling, for you the best thing is if you fight, then everything will automatically come. So here we can see that this section is completed, 11 to 30. So Krishna described about analysis of body and soul. Then in the 31st verse, Krishna is instructing that knowing all this knowledge of Sankhya, you should fight. So and the knowledge of Sankhya is also divided into two parts. First of all, Krishna tells about the eternal nature of the soul. Then if Arjuna accepts that, the eternal nature of the soul, Arjuna should not lament and Arjuna should fight. Again Krishna is giving a counter argument also. If you do not accept this one, and if you think that soul is created and destroyed with the body, still you should not lament, because then the body is a lump of chemicals, and why should one lament for loss of some lump of chemicals? So in this 31st verse, Arjuna gets an instruction from Krishna to fight, and it starts the next section, 31st to 37, that is Sakam Karma Yoga. So by this section, Krishna will destroy the argument named no enjoyment. So this was the second argument given by Arjuna, that I will not get opportunity to enjoy if I kill my own relatives, with whom I will enjoy. So now Krishna is telling, if you fight, if you do your prescribed duty, then only you will be elevated to the higher planets and better opportunity for enjoyment will be opened for you. So that will be explained now by Krishna. Jadichaya kopamanayam kopapamnam swargadvaramapavritam Sukhina Kshatriya Partha Lavante Yuddhamidrisham. O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. So here Krishna is telling that if you fight and if you execute your prescribed duty as a Kshatriya, then Swargadwaram Apavritam, the door to heavenly planets will be opened for you, and you will get better opportunity for enjoyment. And if you do not fight, so Arjuna was thinking that if I fight, I will incur sinful activities, and for that I have to suffer. Now Krishna is reverting the argument that if you do not fight, you are not doing the duty of a Kshatriya. So in that way, you will be incurring sinful activities and you have to suffer for that. And on the other hand, if you fight and if you do your prescribed duty as a Kshatriya, Sargadwaram will be apabritam. Better opportunity for enjoyment will be opened for you. So the definition of dharma and adharma was not clear to Arjuna. What is dharma and what is adharma? So Krishna is clearing that concept here. So then Krishna is telling, Athajitvam imam dharmam sangramam na karishyasi tataswadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. If however you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties. and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. So Krishna is telling that if you do not fight, then you are not doing the duty of a Kshatriya, and in that case you will incur sinful activities, and you have to definitely suffer for that, right? अकीर्तिं चापि भूतानि कथयिष्यन्ति ते व्ययम् सम्भवितस्य च कीर्तिर्मरणात् अतिरिच्यते. People will always speak of your infamy, and for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. So Arjuna was thinking that by not fighting, I will save my relatives, and in the history, I will be known as a great, kind person. So people will always speak of your infamy. So Arjuna is thinking that in history people will glorify me, that Arjuna was a great warrior and you are so kind. So Arjuna is telling all these things arguments, but Krishna is showing the original reality. That Arjuna, don't be in illusion. People will always speak of your infamy, that people will blaspheme Arjuna, that he did not perform his prescribed duty, he just fled away from the battlefield. So in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the different qualities are mentioned of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. So one quality of Kshatriya is Yudre Chapi Apalayanam. A Kshatriya should not flee away from the battlefield. This is one of the quality of Kshatriya. So if Arjuna you do that, you will incur sinful activity. Right? So the definition of Arjuna was wrong and Krishna is correcting that. 35. Vayadranaduparatam mamshante tam maharatha jesham cha tam bahumato bhutvayasya shilaghavam. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. Avachya vadamscha bahun vadishanti tavahita nindantastava smarthyayam tato dukkha taram nukim. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful for you? So Krishna is showing the future. If you flee from the battlefield, then all these things will happen. Hatoba prapsyasi swargam jitva va bhokshase mahim tasmaduttishta kwanteya yudhaya krita nischaya. O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up with determination and fight. So Krishna is saying, on the other hand, if you fight, then if you die also, you will be elevated to the higher planets. Because if a Kshatriya is dead in the battlefield, it is glorious for him, because he has executed the prescribed duty of a Kshatriya, and in the execution of the duty, he has encountered death. So in that condition, you will be elevated to the higher planets and you will enjoy. And if you win the battle, you can anyway enjoy the earthly kingdom. So therefore, if you do not fight, there will be all inauspiciousness. You will be blasphemed and you will incur sinful activities, and everything inauspicious will happen. And on the other hand, if you fight, everything auspicious will happen. If you die, you will be elevated to the higher planets, and if you win, then you can enjoy the earthly kingdom. So therefore, get up with determination and fight. So here we completed the Sakam Karma Yoga portion from verse number 31 to 37. So you can see that here Prabhupada is also telling Both ways you have to fight. Krishna is trying to put Arjuna in the dilemma. This way or that way. You must have to fight. If you do not think you are not in bodily concept of life, then it is my order that you fight. If you think that you are in the bodily concept of life, then you are a Kshatriya. You must fight. Both ways you have to fight. This is Krishna's conclusion. So this is the Sankhya Yoga. And now we saw from the point of view of Sakam Karma, Arjuna should fight. So therefore, the second chapter is called the summary of Gita. If you see the title given by Srila Prabhupada is Contents of Gita Summarized. So here many different kinds of yogas are explained. Sankhya Yoga or Jnana Yoga, then Sakam Karma Yoga, then Niskam Karma Yoga, then slightly Buddhi Yoga also. Everything is described. So therefore this is called content of the Gita summarized. So now we see that from the point of view of Niskam Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga, which is detached work without reactions, from the next section 38 to 53, Krishna is telling about Niskam Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga. An intelligent person, how he will work? He will work in a detached manner. So therefore this is called Buddhi Yoga also. So by this section, Krishna is refuting the argument of sinful reaction. So please try to remember all these things. In the first section, we saw that by Sankhya Yoga, Krishna is refuting compassion argument. By Sakam Karma Yoga, Krishna is refuting no enjoyment argument. By Niskam Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga, Krishna is refuting the sinful reaction argument. How? If Arjuna practices this Niskam Karma Yoga, that means Niskam Karma Yoga means working with detachment, not aspiring for the fruits of our work. So if someone works in this way, then he will be free from all sinful reactions because he is not working for himself. He is not a Sakam Karmi. So, and this can be very easily done if one works for Krishna. Then he is not subjected to the sinful reactions. So by detached work, you can avoid sinful reactions. So this is the next section from 38 onwards. Sukha dukhe same kritva lava labha jaya jayau tata yuddhaya yujjasva naivam papam avakshasi. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting without considering happiness or distress. Fight for the sake of fighting because it is my duty without considering happiness or distress. So this is detached work. Loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by doing so you shall never incur sin. So the sinful reactions, that argument is also refuted here. So here one important verse is quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam. Devarshi bhutaptaninam pitrinam nakinkaranaya mranicha rajan sarvatmanaya saranam sarannam gato mukundam parihitta kartam. Anyone who has completely surrendered unto Krishna or Mukunda, giving up all other duties, is no longer a debtor, nor is he obliged to anyone, not the demigods, nor the sages, nor the people in general, nor kinsmen, nor humanity, nor forefathers. So one who has taken complete shelter of Krishna, he has no debts to anyone. In other words, if one is worshipping Krishna, everyone is already satisfied and he does not have to individually satisfy everyone. So Vaishnava is working for Krishna, therefore he will incur no sinful reactions because he is not working for himself. In the third chapter Karma Yoga, you will see that Krishna is saying Arjuna, Jagyarthat karma nonyatra lokoyam karma bandhane tadartham karma kwanteya mukta sangha samachara. If you work for Vishnu, then you will be liberated from the reactions of work. Jagyarthat karmano. If you do not do that, anyatra what will happen? Lokoyam karma bandhane. If you do not work for Vishnu, then only you will be caught up in the reactions of the work. If you work for Vishnu, then you will be freed from the reactions of work. Mukta Sangha Samachar. So in the 39th verse, Krishna is telling, Esha Devi Hita Sankhye Buddhir Yoge Tvamam Shinu Buddhaya Yuktaya Partha Buddhya Yuktaya Partha Karma Bandham Prahasyashi. Thus I have explained or described this knowledge to you through analytical study or Sankhya. Sankhya is already described. Now listen as I explain it in terms of working without fruitive results. O son of Pritha, when you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. So if you can work in such consciousness or in a detached manner, then you will free yourself from the bondage of works. Now, in the 40th verse, this is an important verse, or sometimes it is oftenly quoted. Neha vikramana susti prattavayo na vidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. So, Srinivas Prabhu, please read the purport.
Actively Krishna consciousness and acting for the benefit of Krishna without expectation of sense gratification is the highest transcendental power. Even a small beginning of such activity finds no fulfillment, nor can the small beginning be lost in the instance. Any work began on a medical planet has to be completed, otherwise the planet becomes a failure. But any work began in Krishna consciousness has a permanent end, even though not finished. The performer of such work is therefore not forget. Because even in his work, Krishna consciousness is not. One person when in Krishna consciousness they perfect evil. So that beginning is not the how to work. Whether the beginning without a 100% success there is no how. Otherwise perform his duty some percentage of Krishna consciousness. But the result he enjoyed in the end, what is the happiness? What the grace of God. This is very nice one. Nice verse in connection. In Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.17. If someone is occupational notices Krishna consciousness and then talks on how completely different, how lost he clear his path, and how he has performed his daily activities perfectly. Or as a Christian says, what confidence he had if he came about the support of his elders. Many activities that result scientific is solved, but Krishna consciousness as a person, again Krishna consciousness, even after the works of God. At least when we go to other plans, but the effect of being born again as a human being added to the number maybe Radhasarama or maybe the expression number being human or the transfer of beliefs. This is the collective of the Krishna consciousness.
Yeah. So, one important thing I want to mention in this regard, that in Bhagavad Gita you will see many portions where Krishna is not explicitly talking about devotional service. Still, Srila Prabhupada writes in purport Krishna consciousness or devotional service these terms. In the third chapter Karma Yoga, you will see Prabhupada is translating the word Karma Yoga as devotional service. But actually, there is some distinction between Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. In a simple way, if you want to understand, that is in Karma Yoga, I am doing the activity and I am offering the fruits of that activity to Krishna. I am not attached to the fruits. I am offering that fruits to Krishna. But I am attached to the work. I will do only that work which I like. And in Bhakti Yoga, the difference is my work is also motivated by the pleasure of Krishna. I will work to satisfy Krishna. Whatever Krishna wants me to do, I will do that, and after doing that, I will offer the fruits of that activity also to Krishna. Like if I want to eat something which I like, then I cook it and then I offer it to Krishna, then I take as prasadam. So this is Karma Yoga. I am doing for myself, but I am offering the fruits to Krishna first. Then I am accepting the prasad. But devotional service is finding out from the Shastra what Krishna likes to eat or what Krishna wants, and for the pleasure of Krishna, I am cooking that, offering that, and then accepting the prasad. This is Bhakti Yoga. So now, Krishna, even if he is talking about detached work, that is not exactly devotional service. Detached work means you should not be attached to the fruits. Just that. So that is Karma Yoga basically, Niskam Karma Yoga. In Niskam Karma Yoga, if you add Krishna, if you add the factor that I am doing this for Krishna, then it becomes Bhakti Yoga. But Srila Prabhupada is translating that as Krishna consciousness. Then how this is Bhagavad Gita as it is? People may question. So the thing is that Krishna, although he is telling about all these different paths, Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Krishna is explaining, but he is not recommending all these things. Krishna is recommending only Bhakti Yoga. That will be clear if one reads the whole Bhagavad Gita. Krishna in chapter 6, he is telling, Yoginam api sarvesham madgate nantaratmanaha shraddhavan bhajate jomam samayukta tamomata. So there are 3 sections in Bhagavad Gita. 18 chapters are divided into 6. First 6 chapters are entitled as basically Karma Yoga. Middle 6 chapters are Bhakti Yoga. And last 6 chapters are Jnana Yoga. Bhakti is kept in the middle because any valuable thing, we keep it hidden. So in a precious jewel box, the jewel of Bhakti is kept securely in the 2 leads of Karma and Jnana. So like that, in the first 6 chapters, Krishna is describing Sankhya Yoga, Karma Sannyasa Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, all these different kinds of yoga methods. Then at the end of 6th chapter, Krishna is telling, Yoginam api sarvesham madgate nantaratmanaha shraddhavan bhajate jomam samayukta tamamata. Among all these yogis, Bhakti Yogi is the best. And throughout the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is giving the supreme instruction also in 18.66. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam saranam vraja manmana bhava madbhaktu. So Krishna recommending Bhakti Yoga, but Krishna is explaining here how to do detached work. So Prabhupada understands the heart of Krishna and gives us what Krishna wants. Krishna's speech can be it can be ambiguous and we cannot understand properly what Krishna wants. A classic example of this thing is in the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter number 7. In the episode of Ashwatthama, when Ashwatthama killed the 5 sleeping sons of the Pandavas, Draupadi was aggrieved with pain, and in that condition, Arjuna was also furious and he caught hold of Ashwatthama. Then Krishna is telling Arjuna, kill that person, kill this Ashwatthama. He is not worthy of living. Kill him. Krishna is instructing like this. So ordinary person will think that Krishna is God, he is telling me to kill, I should kill. But Arjuna did not kill. Arjuna was ready to forgive. And actually Krishna was testing Arjuna. That I will show the people of this world that how merciful my devotee is, how compassionate they are. how kind, how forgiving they are. So I will show the people of the whole world this important quality of my devotee, that I am insisting Arjuna to kill, still he is ready to forgive. So in a heart Krishna wants that Arjuna should not kill, but in mouth Krishna is telling Arjuna you should kill. So therefore it is very difficult to understand the heart of Krishna without following the footstep of a pure devotee. भक्त्या मामपि जानाति यावञ्जस्मि तत्त्वतः ततोऽयं तत्त्वतो ज्ञात्वा विशते तद अनंतरम. Only my bhaktas can know me, nobody else. If someone says that I will understand the scriptures and by directly establishing relationship with Krishna I will understand Krishna. So Krishna is mentioning for persons of this mentality, Krishna is telling in Adi Puran to Arjuna, जो मे भक्त जनाओ पार्थ न मे भक्तश्च ते जना मद भक्तानां च जे भक्ता समे भक्त तमो मता. So Krishna is telling those who claim themselves to be my devotees, they are actually not my devotees. But those who claim to be devotees of my devotees, they are actually my devotees because they truly understand my heart. If someone is claiming himself to be my devotee, he will follow whatever I say. But this is not necessary for Krishna. Whatever he says, he means that. This is the nature of Krishna. Tribhanga Lalita. Understanding Krishna is difficult. So this is a classic example that Prabhupada understands the heart of Krishna. That throughout the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna recommends Bhakti Yoga. So Krishna here is telling about detached work. So if you add slightly one element to this detached work, that working for Krishna and detached work, it becomes Bhakti Yoga. And that will take you to the ultimate destination of Golok Vrindavan. By following this detached, that means by following the principle of working with detachment, you can maximum go to Brahmayoti. But adding slightly one element, working for Krishna, that will take you to Golok Vrindavan. So this is the mercy of Prabhupada, that he is translating Karma Yoga as devotional service. So he understands the heart of Krishna as it is, therefore Bhagavad Gita is as it is. So you should understand as devotees this thing. Maybe I have discussed this earlier also. So now here we can see that in Krishna consciousness nothing is wasted. If I have done 1%, then I will start in the next life from 2%. But this is not true for material things. Okay. Fine. So from 2.41 we will continue in our next class. So now I will like you to tell me or summarize what we studied today from Bhagavad Gita, whatever things we learned, what happened. You have to summarize. So one point from the beginning you have to tell. One point you tell. I want everyone's participation, and thus I want to cover whatever is we learned today to here. So Rahul Prabhu, you first tell me that we started from verse number 2.24. So what section was going on in 2.24? Yes, yes. So Sankhya Yoga is basically from verse number. Yeah, Krishna actually started speaking in 2.2 only, but that was, yes. So that is from 11 to 30. That is Sankhya Yoga, right? 11 verse number, yes, 2.11 to 2.30. So you tell me that in Sankhya two aspects were discussed. What were the two aspects? Yes, very good. And by this analysis of Sankhya, which argument is defeated? Yes, thank you very much. Okay, very good. So now, Nilanjan Prabhu, what was the next section? Yes, Sakam Karma Yoga. So what is that? Sakam Karma Yoga means? With a desire to enjoy. So in Sakam Karma Yoga, the calm is main thing. Calm means desire. So there is desire to enjoy. So now Krishna is telling in Sakam Karma Yoga portion that you want to enjoy, right? You will get better enjoyment if you fight. So just explain that. What will happen if Arjuna fights and what will happen if Arjuna does not fight? Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So in execution of fighting, if Arjuna dies in the battlefield, what will happen? And if Arjuna wins the battle, what will happen? Hmm. How he will get the opportunities for enjoyment by dying in the battlefield? What will happen after his death? Yes, very good. So this is we understand how if Arjuna fights and in the process of fighting if he dies also then there is enjoyment. If he wins the battle also then also there is enjoyment. Now the point is if Arjuna does not fight what will happen? Yes. So the first thing is blasphemy will happen and the second thing is Arjuna will incur sinful activities if he does not fight because he is not following the prescribed duty. Right? So this is the Sakam Karma Yoga. The main focus is on enjoyment. If Arjuna fights and dies, he will get enjoyment in heaven. If Arjuna fights and wins, then also he will get enjoyment. If Arjuna does not fight, then what will happen? He will incur sinful reactions and suffer for that, or he will be blasphemed, and that is also suffering. Right. So this is the section from 31st to 37. Sakam Karma Yoga. Then from 38 to 53, we are in this section now, that is Niskam Karma Yoga. So, yes, Srinivas Prabhu, you can explain what is Niskam Karma Yoga and up to whatever we did. Yes. So which argument is defeated by Niskam Karma Yoga? Yes. Because by doing Niskam Karma Yoga, sinful reactions will not be there. Okay. Now you explain why in this Neha Vikramanasusti verse 2.40, although Krishna was speaking about detached work, why Prabhupada told in the purport Krishna consciousness.
Because Krishna sometimes
Yes, right. So the ultimate conclusion is bhakti. Therefore, Prabhupada is giving bhakti in all the purports. So that if one layman in Kali Yuga with less patience reads only one verse, he will also get the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Okay, thank you very much. From 2.41 we will continue next time. वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः.